Welcome to today's episode of The Breach Room, where we sit down with the sharpest minds in the cybersecurity industry. At Outrain, our empower cybersecurity firms to break free from the outdated methods of lead generation, like networking events, conferences, and relying on referrals, because oftentimes that is not a real growth strategy. With our battle tested data driven client acquisition approach, we'll bring clients your way with no chasing, no guesswork, and just predictable compounding growth. So if you're in cybersecurity and you're looking to expand and see results within the first week, DM me the word growth and we can look into that as well. And today we have a super special guest, Denise Musselwhite, which is not only a founder, but also a huge voice and advocate as a Latina in technology. So Denise, why don't you go ahead and take the floor and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your story and what you do.
Thank you so much for that. I'm thrilled to be here talking to you in support of your audience. My name is Denise Acosta Musselwhite. Have to throw the Acosta in there because people might not connect the dots. So my maiden name is Acosta. I'm the daughter of Puerto Rican dad, Dominican mom. I was born and raised in the Bronx and moved to Orlando, Florida when I was 10. I ended up figuring out that I had an aptitude for technology pretty young. My dad was a mechanic and he invited me into the repair shop to help him translate new technologies that came on the scene in about the mid 80s to help him diagnose errors in their cars. And I was about 12. And I was able to translate that technology computer diagnostic device for him and his mechanics when I was 12 years old. And the rest turned into a career for me because I had a natural aptitude to figuring out technical issues, complex technical problems. And fast forward, I went to college at UCF. We're both UCF grads, go Saints, and graduated as one of the few women in their program called Management of Information Systems. In the 90s, I worked at a high-end ATM firm, if you remember that technology, prior
It's
to fiber, asynchronous transmission mode technology. I was working in that field as a operations manager when I was still in college. And that turned into moving into technology management as a technology director, CIO, and CTO in the education, legal, nonprofit spaces over a 25-year career, had great success there. So my expertise is in technology operations management, system size, infrastructure. For about 5 years, I was the subject matter expert in the realm of cybersecurity for the education space because I had developed with a colleague a framework to mitigate risk as it came to cybersecurity. So that was my career. And now, as a founder, because of those experiences that I had as a woman in a predominantly male space, decided to launch a leadership development agency called Tech and Thrive. And now I'm in my third year as the CEO of Tech and Thrive, where I deliver leadership development, executive coaching, and team effectiveness training to technology professionals to help them uncover those the potential that they have without all of the friction and stress when they're shifting from a primarily technical role to one where they lead people.
That's such an interesting transition. And it's so amazing that at such a young age, you were able to find that passion for technology. But at the same time, like being in college and already being a manager, being able to develop those people skills, project organization, and SOPs to be able to eventually put together Tech and Thrive. That's so amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I always felt like I was working in my purpose, but it was a grind as one of the only women in that space. Every single room, I was like one woman, maybe there was another woman there, but very few Latinas for sure. And there's just a lot that could have been different. And that's why I decided to start Tech and Thrive to help people really overcome those systemic barriers that exist for them in ways that don't create so much stress and burnout and friction.
That makes sense. So I saw in your LinkedIn about section that you talk about your scars and how you were able to earn them and how you are able to help people grow and, be a great mentor to them by helping them avoid those same mistakes. Would you mind sharing some of those like challenges that you had to overcome?
Yeah, I think, for me, when I talk about the scars, I'm really kind of talking about trying to help people uncover what their inner barriers are, right? because trying to break through the systemic barriers that exist for people in technology are so complicated and almost beyond our capacity to make a difference. So then I'm asking my client, you, people who are listening, to think about those internal things that hold us back more than even the external, right? So my insight is that it doesn't have to have so many cuts, scars, if we get really, really tapped into who we are internally and what our unique talents and interests are. What are we really good at? And being able to articulate that clearly to the people that we work with so that we can move forward faster.
Hmm. Yeah, kind of like you paved the way for them not to have to go through those same potholes, but at the same time gave them the map, right? Like how to get to know yourself better to align your future in a very strategic way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do that all in a data informed way. I use assessments with every single company and client that I work with. The tech professionals and STEM minded executives that I work with, they don't make changes without data, right? So I provide them deep assessment to figure out where they want to work, what they need to work on, how they need to change behavior or modify the way that they're thinking about where they're working right now in order to get ahead.
And that's such an interesting positioning because when you have data to tell this story for them, you just kind of like helps them take that first step, and eventually trust you more and follow your leadership until they found their own intuition, that inner voice that is going to be able to guide them down the line.
Yeah.
And what type of executives like do you mostly work with? Like how do you go about meeting these people? Like it's such an interesting business when it comes to executive coaching. I'm just really curious to find out.
So I have strategic partnerships with several consultancies that connect me with ideal clients that match with the kind of client that I work with best. And they are Air Consulting is one, and then Shore Consulting, and I also work for another one, Mission and Data. So I've curated some partnerships with three larger organizations that help me connect with clients that would benefit from working with me. And then the other clients come to me through my own 25-year network. So remember, I was a CIO for more than 10 years at a high level, and I was the board chair of an association that provided leadership to technology professionals in that industry. And because of those connections, people know and trust me already. They know what they're going to get when they work with me. So they come to me and say, hey, I'm at this place in my career where I want to transition, or I feel stuck, or I'm really struggling with getting my team to the next level. And we begin to work together. Most of my clients are technology professionals. I work with executives, CISOs at the highest level in some of the largest Fortune 500 companies in the world. And I've also worked with technology professionals all the way up to CIO level at some of the largest universities in the country. And I work with many technology leaders in the education space. But the common thread is they're technology or tech adjacent professionals.
Makes sense. Yeah. And how do you bridge that gap between someone that is super technical, that someone that now needs to understand the technical, but really manage people and manage a project?
Wow. That's that's like we could do an entire 3 hours on that, right? So what I did was develop a framework called the Thrive operating system. So
Mm.
remember, I was a CISO, a CIO for a long, long time. And that framework helps me to help the client move through a systems process. So just like you reboot your system or do a operating system upgrade, I am approaching them and saying, okay, you're here. What do we need? Do you need a reboot? Do you need some new software? Do you need a completely new system install? What is it that you need in order to get from where you are now to where you want to go? And we use that data to help us kind of come up with what the game plan is. But what's unique about coaching is I believe coaching my philosophy and really coaching's philosophy is that all of us have what we need in order to succeed. You got to get to it. It's got to uncover it, unlock it. So my role in that space with an organization or an individual is to help them unlock, like find the keys to get to that place that they need to go more clearly. So I help them build the roadmap using the Thrive operating system.
That's impactful, not just for them personally, but I feel for the organization as a whole. Like you're really moving the needle in terms of how they're going to approach their career from this point forward and how they're going to go ahead and interact with your teams, which eventually, it all comes down to like how much more productivity there's going to be because now they're much more aligned and they have the clarity that before they didn't know. They just had a bunch of keys, but nowhere to even use them.
Yeah, that's true, right? Like everybody, leadership is theoretical, right? I have a master's in leadership. I went to college and wrote papers and did a ton of studying about what leaders are. But practically speaking, the leader that you are is the one that matches best with who you are. And that's not in a book. You have to figure that out for yourself. Because if you're trying to be a leader from a book, like I opened the book and I'm okay, here it says I'm supposed to be transformational. And that's not who you are. You're play acting, you're code switching, and it creates a lot of stress and pressure. So, really, the key is to figure out which is the kind that you need to be in your unique strengths so
Hmm.
that people get you and so that it feels authentic and real.
Wow, I feel like that's why it's so important to do these assessments, right? Like everybody has different strengths depending on their personality type. And sometimes, if you're doing something but you're forcing it and your brain just really doesn't think that way or it drains your energy, like it's not sustainable. When you find the right role with the right approach, then you can find your purpose, you can find your passion, and it's a lot easier to show up.
Yeah, it is. It's much easier to show up when there is alignment with where you are working or the team that you're on or the role that you have with who you are naturally. That doesn't mean that you can't change your behaviors a little bit and adjust, just like you tweak a system, right? I'm going to add a little bit new software or I'm going to ask AI a different question. You can do that with yourself too, but a lot of habit change comes
Mm.
before it sticks. And you can't really change your personality. You can just change your behavior or learn new skills.
And what about your identity? When you said habits, I'm like, wow, that's so powerful, and you can really change your personality, but you can maybe identify with someone in a different way or with yourself, in a different point in time. And you want to align those actions and those habits. I'm just curious to see your perspective on that.
Tell me more about what you mean about identity. Tell me more.
I feel like you can't really accomplish something big unless it's already part of.
Mm.
You need to have an identity switch. I'm not saying you can't change your life. I'm saying your personality, for the most part, is going to be some type of way. But when you start identifying, for example, let's put the gym, as someone that wants to lose weight, well, you're doing it out of a place of like, I don't like the way I feel about myself when I look at myself in the mirror, instead of a place of like, I identify as an athlete. And even though I'm in my own point in time in this journey and my path looks different than everybody else, if I just do the right things, eventually I'll get to where I want to be. Right. So you start switching from like, I don't like
Yes.
myself to, hey, these are the steps that I need to take to become an athlete. And that will lead into having a healthy lifestyle around.
Yes. So I understand what you're saying. This is I want to share a little bit of story with you because remember I said I was a CIO, a technology leader for most of my career, 25 years. That was my identity, right? I identified as a high level executive CIO technology leader. When I decided that I was made for more, I understood that I could have a bigger impact by coming into that gap that I understood between technically minded leaders and people leaders. You know, I could see that I had clear and present expertise there, and people were coming to me for that more than they were coming to me for technical issue problems, right? So I said, oh my gosh, I want to go toward this new version of myself as a executive leader coach or leadership development specialist, or I want to pivot my expertise without leaving my past, right? That required me to hire my own coach to help me re-identify with the next version of myself, right? Because I had to put this part where it belonged in order for me to get to the next place. If I still associate myself with someone who is solving technical problems in my role as a CEO for my company, I won't be doing any justice to my clients. My job now is not to figure out what software I need to use to meet with them, it's to meet with them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have to change where I'm pointed to. And that means I have to recognize where I'm supposed to be spending my time.
That's the important thing. I feel like a lot of CEOs, it's just like so much that you have to do that maybe sometimes you feel really comfortable in one area of your business and you have, 25 years plus of experience. But in order for you to get to that next level and you have the potential, well, you need to stop spending all of your time in what you already know how to do and
You have
get
to
the
do what you don't know how to do,
get the
right?
skill, invest in that. And then it's like finding the right people to trust, right? Because somebody has to do that type of work at the end of the day.
Yeah. So for someone who's moving out of the individual contributor role or they're getting a bigger team because they got promoted, this is a very, very big transition
Hmm.
because they felt they got promoted or tapped for leadership because they were an expert at solving technical issues, not in solving team interpersonal issues or project management issues. It is because they were excellent at their technical role. It takes a completely different skill set to be excellent at leading a team,
Hmm.
leading people to performance than solving a technical problem. It's not the same skill set. But because they were experts at technology, they get in the weeds with their teams
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
and they end up not delegating enough. They end up creating a ton of stress because they're trying to micromanage their teams instead of saying, okay, my new expertise is to lead the team toward what performance looks like.
Yeah,
And that's a different job.
that is a different job. And I'm curious to, and I don't want to like offend anybody in any way, but like when it comes to women and men, I feel like women have a lot of that project management skills, and a lot of men are a lot more like technical and kind of like on the weeds. What is your perspective on gender, if any, at all, when it comes?
I think that just like personality, our environment informs us on like what stereotypical roles are, right? So we start to kind of attach our own identity towards those stereotypical roles. I don't think that they are accurate for everyone, but biologically, women are more nurturing.
Yeah,
Not all women are
right.
more nurturing, but biologically, we are wired more for that human connection in a different way, where men are biologically more tactical. It's more of a transaction,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good way.
So, not all of them, some of them are different, but it's part of our biology. So, what happens though is when you introduce different people to the workforce and now you have a mixed up team, men and women, some of them are being tactical and some of them are trying to be highly relational, but they don't have an understanding of how they do that together. And they don't have a common language, so there's a lot of friction.
Yeah.
Right? So a coach like me comes in to help identify what the new language is. It's like learning a new programming language. What are we going to say when we need somebody to be tactical? And what are we going to say when we need somebody to be more human centered or interpersonally connected? Is this meeting a tactical meeting or is this a meeting where I need to listen to how you feel? Those are two different meetings, or maybe they're happening in the same time. So the better, like people need a script or a roadmap for this so that they understand each other because everybody's speaking a different language. When I work with people, I like to call it your leadership frequency.
Mm,
When you change the station, I don't know if you're old enough for this,
no, of
Louis.
course.
When
Like
you
the rate.
change the station and you hear the static because you're on the wrong station, we all have that. If I'm on one station and you're on the other station, I hear static.
Such a good way to put it.
So then if you put it on the right station and you and I are both on the same frequency, we understand what we need to do. The problem in work, especially with technical people who are so used to talking about specifications and black and white things, is that now we're talking about like a human. I need you to perform your job better. Well, what does that mean? I'm not on the same frequency as you. You need to tell me what station performing my job better looks like. What does that mean? Does that mean I need to what? But telling somebody like, I need you to have better performance.
It's different things to different
That's
people.
not helpful. What is performance? Performance needs to be defined either by KPIs. There needs to be a scope, standard operating procedure for how we define performance in our organization, on our team, for myself. You need 3 of them. One for you, one for your team, one that the organization shows you. If you don't have those 3, you're not getting the performance.
Makes sense. That's super interesting. And like when you engage with a team or a leader, like how does that roadmap look like on their end? Like is it like a 6 month, a year, or like what does it actually look like to make an impact in a transformative way on an organization?
So when I work with teams, organizations, or individuals, the minimum engagement for me is a 6 month because nothing is going to change overnight. Right? So assuming we start with 6 months for an organization that brings me in to help do team effectiveness development coaching with a group, it can look like a 6 months engagement where I meet with that team, that cohort for once a month or once every 2 months for about an hour as a group. And then there's individual coaching too, about 6 meetings with each individual so that now it's like superpowered. We meet together as a group. We come up with new norms based on the assessment. I use something called the team effectiveness survey. That assessment shows us what's off, culture, productivity, where the markers are. It gives clear behaviors that need to be worked on. Everybody does that assessment on the team. And when we know that, together with the team, we come up with the strategic plan to define what we're going to work on. And then at the end of that 6, 8, 12-month engagement, maybe even 2 years, we measure again to see how the
That's so powerful. I would love to see some of those, like case studies or progress and how it was versus what patterns you guys found together as a team and then like
yeah,
work.
and it all happens together. I just coach them through and facilitate the conversations. The team is actually doing the work.
Wow. Yeah. You're there as a trusted advisor, like as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
the growth partner in some extent. And what are some of the challenges, or trends that you've been seeing in the industry nowadays?
So the trends that I see are I'm seeing more frozen teams
Pros?
than is so that assessment shows kind of a matrix. There's high performing teams, driven teams, and then on the lower scale, there's a frozen team and then a comfortable team.
Mhm.
So because of artificial intelligence and the way that technology is moving so fast, people cannot keep up. There's
Yeah.
a lot of frozen. We don't know where to go because everything's moving. So people aren't on staying on the same trajectory anymore. They need more defining where to go. And because everything's so fast, they end up frozen because they're not all going in the same direction. So that's going up, right? Less collaboration because people are remote as well,
Okay.
right? We go off and we do our work, we come back together. That interpersonal connection is suffering because people are remote,
Yeah.
because they're not spending time getting to know each other as humans. They are only being tactical in those meetings.
Yeah. There's no actual connection, essence.
Right. So I think that our ability to be interpersonally connected in a human way is being challenged. And that creates frozen teams.
Yeah,
And it
especially
holds
in.
back performance.
I see.
Yeah.
That's so
And the other
interesting.
thing that's a trend for your audience, I think this is pretty interesting, is artificial intelligence comes in, right? It's not brand new. We've been studying machine learning for over a decade, right?
There is
But
the
now
technology
it's in
for
our
sure.
everyday.
Uh-huh.
People who are qualified as engineers, like I went to school to become an engineer or a computer scientist or even a doctor, those very high STEM field. All of a sudden, there is something out there that can do PhD level work and can solve engineer problems without going to college. So they're digging in they don't want to change the way they do things because that is a threat to what is it that they're there to do if they're not the engineer, the smartest at solving this. Now the computer is smarter than you.
That's so interesting. And you're right, like a lot of people get paralyzed and a lot of people get stuck in the ways. But in reality, like it's something that you can't change. So like it's about like learning how to leverage that in your everyday role. Like make yourself more of an asset because now you're empowered by technology. And I'm curious to find out, like what are some of the ways that you've been able to leverage AI to grow your business now that everything is more digital, now that human connection is it's at its lowest it's been since a while, because you're right, everybody's doing tactical meetings but there's not enough of that, but at the same time we need to adapt. So what are some of the ways that you've been able to leverage AI to assist you in your business?
Well, my ability to analyze the data from the assessments that I do is much deeper than I could before, right? So, this idea of hybrid intelligence, right? So, I'm already very intelligent. I have a master's in leadership. I'm very capable of learning new technologies. I can think high from an emotional intelligence way and a critical thinking way, right? So, if I add AI to my own ability to do that, now I'm interpreting this data in ways that wasn't possible before because I didn't have enough time. So I can dig into the data faster and better than before in less time. So that's one way. For my own business as a small agency, I have developed and created agents to do important work for me,
That's so cool. Like
right? So my
agents.
CFO agent
Okay.
can do financial projections.
Mm,
My CIO, my CISO agent can tell me what I need to be thinking about in order to ensure that I'm protecting my client's data, right? I don't just listen to it, but it's coming alongside of me to help me think about things that I hadn't thought about before, right? Spiritual wellness agent is coming alongside me to say, this is what you said your purpose is. Are you still in alignment with it? It's it's my check-in. I like to call it the personal board of directors. So I created agents for my personal board of directors, and I have conversations with that board of directors, all in a paid and secured version of ChatGPT. I pay for the team version, so nothing is out there, right?
that's so
But I intentionally go to the free agents, the free Gen AI tools to train them with what I'm asking because a Latina woman CEO founder is wondering things that are different than what you are, Louis. So I want to train it about what I'm wondering about
yeah.
because I want it to be capable of thinking also about how I am thinking about problems. So I encourage individuals who are worried about training the agent. What are you worried about training it about? Are you scared that it's going to be racist or lack empathy? Go train it. Give it some.
You're really prompt engineering almost an avatar into the technology so that you can have more profound conversations and at the same time understand better how to navigate business nowadays. I think you're the first person that has ever told me like I built a board of directors as my agent and I get to have those conversations. I think that's brilliant.
It's fun. I posted about it on my LinkedIn. You can go see and you can grab the prompt and play with it.
Thank you, Denise. And what are like the next 6 to 12 months looking like for someone in an executive coaching business? Like, what does that look like for you?
For me, it looks like serving my clients exceptionally well. I am very, very discerning that I make connections with people who believe and trust me and that I believe and trust in them, right? Because it needs to be a partnership. So I am always really discerning about who I choose to work with. And I also want them to be discerning for me. So I'm going to work with organizations who align with what I believe a diverse tech team can do, right? And they're going to partner with me to go on this Thrive operating system journey to get better performance, right? So I'm looking forward to meeting all of those people who want to do that work with me,
And when
right?
you performance, like, what are some of the metrics that you like mostly improve on?
I love this question because guess what? My clients are the ones who set their key performance indicators.
Really, that's great. Accountabilities, they're from day one.
So if an organization is inviting me in to have this conversation with them, I'm asking them, what are the outcomes of your investment going to be? What do you need the outcomes of your investment to be? And if they have trouble answering that question, they need to look at themselves, right? Because sometimes organizations will hire executive coaches or leadership development professionals to put a check in the box, but they're not really looking to really change anything.
Yeah, they just check, but not willing to actually do the implementation and the work. Because, like you said, it might take minimum 6 months to do a real change, especially when you're talking in a team setting environment.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to serving the book of clients that I have right now who are getting great results. And you talked about like what, so they get to choose their KPIs. The things that they say most to me when we wrap up and they give me their feedback on what worked is they end up have more confidence to ask to make more money because they can see their value more clearly. So they're able to do that. They can also more confidently sit at a influential table and add to that conversation in a way where they feel like they're adding the right elements to the room, not just everything. They're being strategic about what they add to that space. And then they feel more supported.
You created that culture where they feel confident in their skill set. They're able to speak their mind when it's the time to speak their mind very strategically. And at the same time, you created that environment where like communication is now a key element. And that's honestly like the key to success in any business.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's what they say most to me. Confidence is way up there.
It's super powerful. If there was one message that you would like the audience to take home with them after they listen to today's episode, like what would that be?
I think the persistent message that I share with on podcasts and on my LinkedIn is your if you're waiting for someone else to tap you for leadership or to tell you in an evaluation some magic recipe for how you're going to succeed, that's not where the answer is. The answer is in you. And you need to write your own evaluation about where it is that you want to go and present it to the people who can help you get there. Don't wait for someone else to tell you what you're great at. It is up to you to figure that out.
Everything you need to get to where you want to be, you already have.
You already have it. You just have to get it out.
That's so powerful. Thank you, Denise, so much for hopping onto this. It was such a great honor having you. And how can people go ahead and find you if they're, in need of executive coaching or if they're Latina trying to get into the tech industry?
Yeah, so they can find me at my website, which the website can be found at techthrive.me. That's the short version of it for ease, techthrive.me. And on my website, there's a quiz there that anyone who's listening here can take to figure out whether they're thriving, sinking, or surviving in their journey in leadership. And when you take that quiz, you end up getting some free resources from my Thrive operating system. Anyone is invited to find me on LinkedIn, Denise Musselwhite, and you can even send me an email. I'm a live person. There's no AI answering your emails. I'm still answering my own emails. And I invite anyone who felt like this message resonated to reach out to me.
That's amazing. I'm looking at, tech and thrive like .me, and I'm definitely going to take the quiz right after this call.
Thanks, Louis. This was awesome. So much fun. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording now.